Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, aka Tagz.
And I'm Tyler Recker of Days.
It's episode 71. We're joined again by the wonderful Brittleknee. Welcome.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming on here despite Tyler and everything.
She's probably not a guest anymore. She's just part of the crew, hey?
That's right.
Like just part of, so now Justin like gets to like boss you around.
I should have just
threaten you
cut you
with
off.
your friendship if you don't do properly.
I don't know. I mean, I never got my punch card in the mail, so I don't know where I'm at on the redemption.
It's coming. Same with the check. Quick shout out to our Patreons. Thanks a lot, Marshall, for joining the crew this week. If you're curious what our Patreon is, you can find the information down below. Gets you access into our After Dark, as well as this is okay. Good. I all of a sudden thought Audition was crashing again. So welcome to Patreon, Marshall, and everybody else, and thank you guys for supporting the podcast. If you're looking for more information, it's down below, and it gives you access to our podcast after the podcast, After Dark, and that's everything.
If you didn't do everything, I'd say you're useless.
I'm literally not cutting any of that. Right now, I'm even lost looking at my screen.
Before the whiskey.
That's right. I haven't even started drinking. Damn it! I gotta stop opening that. What is going on with me? Okay. Ty, how was your week?
We're gonna take a after these messages. Did you ever see that, Brittle? The After These Messages Saturday morning cartoon? I don't know if it was a Canada only thing or if it was on Fox. No, whatever. It was awesome. I had a good week.
Yeah.
I had a great week. I heard on the radio that like I always think of the year in quarters, right? Like, seasons and then like companies, they think of the year in quarters. Somebody mentioned today on the radio that we're a sixth done the year already. And it made me feel like we're already finished summertime. Like to me, that seemed like we've already progressed so far. So it was kind of weird. So it was a weird day because of that. But
isn't it weird to measure the year in sixths?
Yeah.
That seems odd.
Yeah, I think they were looking for something. But anyway, it kind of weirded me out. I felt like we were almost finished the year anyway. But I saw Camille today. So I'm like, I have a crazy busy day today. So I go out and I get some food. I'm picking up some pizza at Domino's and showed up a little early. Maybe I'm just about to leave. I'm just leaving after getting my pizza and truck pulls up right beside me. The Domino's parking lot that's near. It's just brutal, right? Like super small. Everybody's got trucks. So there's nowhere to go, nothing to see. Truck pulls up right beside me as I'm coming out. It's 100% Camille right next to me. I'm looking like before it even clicked that he's on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. I was like waving.
Hey, Forever Exiled.
So anyway, I saw Camille today. He obviously hates me because he didn't say anything and he just looked at me weird. But anyway, so that was awesome. But it was a good day. Normal week. Normal everything. Normally brain dead. Had some specialist appointments. Video specialist appointments. Hey, do you see this growth? It was a good week. Weird. All 21st century because of COVID. How was yours, Just?
Well, BK, you tell us about your week.
I still can't even believe it's Friday. Like, what happened?
Is that good? Or is that bad?
I mean, it means I was busy and time passed, but I don't know. It was just a frantic blur of planning and trying to keep up with like normal schedules. And I'm trying to do more YouTube content now, and it's a mess.
The YouTube content or
yeah,
what's a mess?
actually, no, the YouTube. Oh, I mean, it's arguable. I don't think my production quality is that great, but
they're good.
It's just a mess trying to manage it all and trying to figure out where to like put into an already busy schedule the hours it takes to make them.
Yeah. Do you have your system set up, like how you want to organize it and playlist and all that kind of stuff? Or is that still something you're figuring out too?
There's like stuff I want to make that's like more tutorial based, but that'll come in time. What I've been mostly trying to use is like a break-in way to get you used to making content in the first place is just doing like build diaries and sort of like build overviews. I figure if I can get to a point where I can record and edit those in a timely manner, then I'm ready to kind of tackle the heavier project of outlining all of this like tutorial and new player stuff. Like, how do you build defensive layers? What does it mean? What sort of guard skills do you use? What sort of recovery options do certain build types favor? Like that kind of stuff. And I don't know if I can even begin writing the scripts on those until I've practiced actually creating other content.
Totally.
Do you try and do it all at once, though? Like, would you try and take on something big like that and do it all at the same time?
Well, the build guides right now are really easy just because I write out the script and then I read the script word for word all the way through. And then I just go record random videos of me killing bosses and I put music to it and I smoosh them all together. So it's really not that complicated. Occasionally there's like a slide with some information or like a math equation to explain a certain calculation from the game. But when you're introducing like more of these subjective concepts within PoE, because like even something like build defenses has like such a wide range of what is applicable, like from softcore all the way to, you know, Solus Alpha and hardcore. Like how people approach the game is so different. So trying to make these sort of universal tools for folks is going to be really challenging.
Yeah, it's hard to simplify a crazy complex game.
Yeah, and not only that, PoE, because of the rate of turnover with content in general. So creating timeless PoE content or PoE content in general that doesn't necessarily get outdated instantly within a 13-week cycle is one of the most challenging things about creating long-term sort of tutorial-based PoE content, because we can see entire archetypes get changed up in a matter of a single like series of patch notes. Like things that even if I had made the defensive layers video 2 months ago, they shadow nerfed like a lot of different sources of reduced damage taken and reduced physical damage taken from the passive tree that existed before. They just kind of very quietly took it away, and then they just recently took it away from ascendancies too in this last iteration of patch notes for 3.13. So that's in 3.12 and 3.3, there's now all of these sources of reduced damage taken or reduced physical damage taken that I would have referenced, saying that certain ascendancies were good because of it or certain passives were good because of it, that are no longer relevant because it doesn't exist anymore. And that's in the span of 6 months. And to think that, you know, a video that I'm going to create now is not going to, you know, get instantly changed in 3 months is just silly. So
that doesn't just excite you to make another one?
It should, but I have unfortunately the mark of my upbringing in that I was raised as like to be a perfectionist, where you have to do like the best thing to help you God. And every single time I put out content, I always feel like I just want it to last a while. I want it to be a very good example of what it is, even though there's no way I can account for or prepare for like the attrition that happens with normal game balance. I still hold myself to the standard that I should anticipate it and create content that's going to overcome that somehow. And that's a me problem.
This is not the greatest podcast for that, because we do not.
You know, though, there's going to be a lot of things in PoE too that are just in PoE 1, and those might be something to focus on, like the defense types that you were talking about. Maybe if it's not skill specific or notable specific or keystone, but just in general, focusing on mentalities as opposed to specific content can make the content last a little bit longer, make the date stamp on the bottom of the video not matter per league, you know, not have a 3-month expiry date.
Yeah, like I feel like in the end, there's a way to boil down a lot of content into something that is essentially timeless. I just haven't figured out how to yet.
Big challenge. Good for you, though. YouTube content's awesome. Fun to make. I don't know how to make it, though.
You're getting there. You've done a couple.
I hit download, and then I hit
it's the
upload.
Xbox.
And that's it. That's what they get.
All right, well, now, the one benefit of BK being here is all the people who don't like the beginning of our podcast just got a whole lot of PoE talk right through the beginning. Now, on to my week. I went to the zoo.
Ooh, again?
No,
Did
just
you
the
go
one
last
time.
week?
No.
Oh.
So we have a zoo, like it I don't know, there's a couple zoos in BC, but it's a small zoo. Ty, you would have been angry, yelling, crabby, just dickhead bitching the whole time. Because
it would have been legit.
No, it's crazy. It wasn't like crazy busy, but wearing a mask is just not even, it's weird because you don't have to wear a mask. I guess it's because it's mostly outside, but it was like 50-50 of people wearing masks.
Oh.
And here's why. Here's where I was. While I was at the zoo, I was laughing to myself because I was picturing you walking beside me or you being the dad up ahead, because kids will run up to the fences. There's like lions and bears and all that stuff. And
Yeah, you forgot the tigers. Way to
tigers,
go.
oh my.
It's
But
like a really easy lions, tigers, bears, and you forgot the tigers.
I purposefully
Anyway,
skipped
go
it so
ahead.
you wouldn't be like, oh my.
They're my favorite.
So,
Oh.
but people are like standing right at the cages, and a lot of kids aren't wearing masks. And then other kids, they don't care. They're little kids. They just want to see the bears. And so they would run up like right in the middle of a group of like a family, like no mask on. I just was like,
and the parents of that kid are just like not doing anything, right?
well, most of them were fine, but there's a lot of
go run into that group of people and you don't know how apathetic they've been to COVID. Yeah, let's do that. Bring it home. Bring it home. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go.
even in the lineup to pay, I was surprised how many people weren't wearing masks. What is it like where you are, Brittle, right now with masks? Is it mandatory?
No, it's Florida. Without getting into too political,
Right.
the governor here doesn't give a shit about.
So they don't
any of
have a
us.
mandatory mask anything?
No, it's on a county by county basis. At least where I live, people are at least somewhat intelligent about it. Like most of the grocery stores and places like that will not like help you if you don't wear one, or if you go in without one, they will ask you to leave or provide you with one, that sort of thing. But it's not at a state level here.
We had for a while where the government wasn't the ones getting in to say you had to wear the mask, and which is similar to what you have. And it was actually way worse because then it puts the onus on the business owner, which makes them, where we live, the government, before they got involved, it left the onus on the business owner to enforce that. And then you ended up with people yelling because it wasn't supposed to be required. And in BC, where we live now, it's you have no
absolutely
choice.
terrible too, because like how on earth are you supposed to make a business owner who's already suffering because of this pandemic in the first place be the person that has to then enforce something? Like,
Mhm.
do they choose like their business surviving and being able to feed their children, or do they pick like enforcing this mandate? Like, it should come up from above. It should not be at that level. It's just not fair to make people make those decisions.
No, it may, and the thing that for me was the worst was then these business owners, well, not purposefully, but their staff are getting in this spot where you're supposed to be a security guard and enforcer versus running stuff through a till, which was not cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, here it's required, but not at the zoo, which was weird. Just 6 feet.
I
Anyway,
get so mad.
yeah, you wouldn't have been happy.
I'm probably, I'm gonna have a heart attack, go to jail, or I'm gonna have to just play PoE nonstop,
That'll be
and
the
then
cure.
I won't be outside.
No, I just don't go out. Most of the time when we get our big Costco orders in, we get it delivered. We wipe everything down and just like hermit for weeks and weeks at a time.
Costco delivers there. Just imagine if Costco delivered here. Oh, glory!
Yeah, it definitely doesn't here. I mean, you can go shop there and it's
No.
fine.
But
I
you
mean,
can't
not if
even
you're
get.
Tyler.
No, it's not.
Not if
Oh
you're
no, it's
Tyler.
not. And you can't even get a big TV there or something and get them to like ship it to you for $100 billion. They won't do anything.
Can you not buy from Costco online? I don't know. Don't they ship? I don't think they
They
would.
have some stuff, but
Never
they have stuff
ever
that's more
buy a flat
expensive.
screen TV online if you can help it. Trust me on this one. I
I
used
got
to
mine
work.
online,
I
not
used
from
to
Costco.
work for Best Buy like a long time ago, and like the shit that used to
Oh, I hate
happen
Best Buy.
when deliveries would come in, man.
Hmm.
Like someone would knock a stack of them over and just be like, "Ha ha, whoops!" Just like put the boxes back, you know. Like, okay,
Can you get groceries from your Costco delivered?
that's what
That's
we
what she
do.
said.
I mean, I cook from scratch for pretty much every meal, so
Huh.
I
Yeah.
just go get lots of produce and meat and chop it all up and put it in the freezer, and then just take out what I need and cook per meal.
Sweet. Well, I went to the zoo and then I had insaneness. This was the end of my craziness for work. So finally that's over. But it's funny you talk about dying Ty. I became obsessed for maybe 2 weeks ago with this doctor named David Pierce. He's a biologist and he researches aging
Okay.
and the medicine and the science behind reversing and stopping aging. It's amazing. Like seriously crazy.
And so, are you not getting older anymore?
Well, I don't want to be old and decrepit. I don't want to be like out of my mind. I want to be with it. So his stuff he talks about is cool because the idea is to live healthy way longer and die real quick. And that's what I want.
That sounds about right.
It's true. I want to
wanna-
grow old healthily, and then I want to die real fast.
Just be an idiot crossing the street when you're ready to go. Read a book, crossing the street.
I don't know.
There,
I just think it's fascinating what they can do. So
Neat.
that was my week. All right. So now
Sweet.
I have absolutely no input on my PoE week because of work. I have not touched the game in the while. So how was your PoE week, BK? What did you do this week?
Put the finishing touches on my League starter and got the video out for his stuff, which was really cool. I started this league out on a Bladefall, Blade Blast, Archmage Hierophant. And
Hang
so
on, say
there's
that
a
again?
lot of different iterations of Bladefall, Blade Blast, and I hopped on the bandwagon, but I got them on different, Bladefall, Blade Blast, Archmage Hierophant.
It clicks about half an hour later. Got it. Hierophant,
Huh.
Bladefall, Blade Blast. Got it.
Right,
Go on.
so Hierophant has a lot of innate mana scaling and the ability to really scale the absolute crap out of Arcane Surge, which gives extra spell power and cast speed. And then Hierophant also carries a lot of AoE scaling, which is very good for Bladefall and Blade Blast, mostly because you want those explosions from the blast to overlap, because then you're doing multiple instances of damage at the same time.
Right.
So he's basically a really good vector for this type of playstyle and for this particular skill. And he's really tough and tanky, and I'm really satisfied with the build. The problem has been convincing people that this is an acceptable alternative, because people, they stick to what they know. Right now, the two overarching, I guess, metas for this particular skill is usually assassin or chieftain. That's kind of like what it's been for a long time, or those two that have played it. So people want to understand its abilities by comparison. And so that it gets tricky trying to break it all down into, I think it's tankier than a chieftain, and I think it has more damage potential than an assassin. But
Nice.
When you say you have to break it down, are you talking about in a build guide, a YouTube video, a post on the forums while you're streaming? What?
I mean, just in general, when people come into the stream or comment on the YouTube video, and one of my viewers actually threw the YouTube video up on Reddit, and there was just all this infighting in the comments about is this better than assassin? Is this better than chieftain? Is this tankier than chieftain? Is it tankier than assassin? And it's one of the ongoing things that I kind of have this angry frustration with Reddit about in the general PoE community is why does something have to be the best?
Right. Too much paper talk.
Can we
Not
just
enough gameplay.
enjoy a build for its well-roundedness and its ability to be a good build for a lot of different people, rather than it being the best build for 5% of the people? Because that's sort of how I approach my builds when I make them. I was the builds that I create aren't necessarily the best version of SRS. They're not the best version of Caustic Arrow. It's not the best version of any of the skills I've played. I tried to create a really well-rounded, forgiving character for people to learn the game on, or maybe try bossing for the first time, or if they're getting into crafting, that things aren't so complicated. That does good damage, and at the end of the day, the Hierophant, I think the version of mine that I'm playing right now does 14 million burst damage on a boss. And it's burst damage because with Archmage, you have to have, a couple different conditionals. You have to be standing in your Sigil of Power, Arcane Cloak has to be up, and you've had to have spent mana recently. Those are usually your conditions. That's why I say burst damage here, because it has to line up a certain way, so it's not consistent. And that's really good. That does all content in the game, including Tier 19 100% Delirious maps. And so I'm level 99 and 3/4 on it, and I've been doing simulacrums to 100 to prove a point. Just not even looking at the map mods or anything, just clicking the waves and just endlessly killing everything over and over and over again, because people are is this tanky enough? It's I don't know, dude. I'm doing simulacrums to 100.
No kidding. People, that's one thing, I guess, pros and cons about such a theory crafting game is people can always try and put their own preferences on it. But a lot of people, there's those stages in anyone's PoE career, mine included, where it's you feel you know everything, and somebody posts something and you think you know better than them. And because it's such a big community now, it's hard to get away from. But I hear you. You have a fantastic build, and no matter what it looks like on paper, no matter what people say, you actually got to click it and play it and see how it works.
I'm so confused with that whole stuff though, with build wise. Like, well, you make a build, BK makes a build. Why does it? I don't understand why some idiot has to be like, well, is it tanky enough? Can it do this? Go make your own build. You don't have to play this build. I just don't understand it.
She's got tons of videos. They all prove the point, but for some reason they got something to say.
I just find that so bizarre.
It's not questions like, hey, sorry, could you explain this part again? I don't quite get this. It's like questioning the actual content that's already been posted.
Well, and you clicked the video or you clicked the forum post. I didn't ask you to come to my video or my forum post. Like, you clicked here. Read it and do it or don't. It's bizarre.
I'm discovering more and more that I have a dissonant opinion than, like, I would say a majority of the players. And I was talking with my community the other day about this, and those videos that show up where it's like, watch me kill a 6-person party of like this particular boss in like 4 seconds, and like that is never the path of exile I want to play. Like, and so someone like tried to break this down for me. Like, breaking the game is something that is satisfying to certain types of players. Like, they enjoy that. They want to put the build together that does the hundreds of millions of DPS and then just like instantly shits on anything that they fight against. And for me, like, that is abhorrent. That is like disgusting. That is appalling, and something I never ever want to do or play or experience. Because I'm the kind of person that when I'm playing a roguelite, the second my character is powerful, I just like suicide and start the run over again. Because like when it's not a struggle, I lose interest instantly. Like, it's just not fun anymore. And so I realized that I sort of like, there's a lot of PoE players and a lot of people that play this game where like ramping to that place of feeling insanely powerful is like the entire reason why they play. Like, it's just to get to that feeling, to get to that point, to be able to do those things without like, and for me, I don't know. I enjoy playing the game. I want to do the mechanics the way the boss designers intended. Like, totally. I want even though I play in softcore, I want the rush of like maybe getting my shit kicked in once in a while, because it means I still need to improve something about my build. And I enjoy those incremental things. And as soon as a character sort of gets too tanky and the damage is all right, I kind of just like instantly lose interest. And that's when usually people double down and put like tens to hundreds of exalts into a build to make it even more powerful.
I think the thing that's weird to me though is, so there are people that play that way, and I'm just assuming you wouldn't tell them they're playing the game wrong. That's why I don't understand the alter side of that, the other side of that, where they're saying, well, if you're struggling or you're actually, there was a chat in Discord. I didn't get to be a part of it because I was too busy and didn't pay much attention, but they were talking about the fact that you get the headhunter and all of a sudden it's like, man, it's not really any fun anymore. Like, the game just became less fun because you've gotten too overpowered. So
I love that kind of stuff. Like, when I think I mentioned on one of my broadcasts not too long ago where I think I had a metamorph right next to a Cyrus spawn, and then all of a sudden Breach invaders showed up. Beyond who's the crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was just mayhem, and I got the crap kicked out of me. I mean, I lasted a long time, but I eventually died, and then I came back and I did it, but it was like 10 minutes. I loved it. And I kind of love the idea that, I mean, who knows what PoE 2 is going to be like, but I love the prospect. Maybe one day this game will be like, if you complete the map and didn't use all, 5 out of 6 portals, you did well. I love that prospect. I love like the long boss battles. I'm with you on that, Brittle, for sure.
I mean, like, ultimately in any action RPG period, you are going to be unable to prevent it from happening. Like, that's just the way it is. That's the way these games are. Elite-driven games like this will always be broken in this manner. We've seen it plenty of times, and usually like the way to combat that is like really insane scalers to the point of like what greater rifts were in D3. Like, that being said though, like, when I see the posts like that, I have common decency, so I just like hit my back button on my browser, and then I just like don't engage, like a human being. But at the end of the day, at least like I've kind of in those discussions like realized that about myself. But it's true. Like, when it comes for me making content, I want to give people the tools. At the end of the day, like, even back to my career before this, when I was a paramedic, like I was a preceptor, and that was my favorite part about being like doing the entire preceptor program, was I enjoyed imparting tools onto my students so that they could then solve these problems in the real world themselves in the future. Like learning how to run your differential diagnosis on the, stomach pain patient, because you might learn something that'll help the doctors later on. Like there's always something that you can do. And I kind of try to adapt this over to PoE as well. Like I'm not the person that wants to have like everything done, but if I can put together well-rounded builds that are acceptable both in defenses and damage, and I can put out materials that are going to help people like gain the knowledge and gain the tools to then pick apart other problems, then I'm happy. Like at the end of the day, that's the creator I want to be content-wise. Right. So like I'm not ever going to have like the unboxing 4,000 div cards or watch me kill a boss in a second flat kind of videos, and I'm okay with that. But in those conversations, I don't know, like it was kind of not relaxing, that's not the word I'm trying to think of, but it was comforting in a way to kind of like figure out my place in like the PoE content creator universe shipdom thing. I was like, all right, now I know what kind of content I want to make. And that's actually a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it can be pretty overwhelming.
Literally all I've done for the last 3 years almost is just wake up in the morning, make coffee, and secrete words into a microphone for 6 hours. So at least I've got a plan. I mean, it took me 3 years, but fuck. I mean, at least I got one.
It's a huge game, and when you fall in love with the game, you have endless options for being a community creator, not just, when it comes to building your own build and playing for yourself. Are you still going to be broadcasting with all the YouTube stuff, or are you going to kind of do 50-50?
Oh, no. I'm... Me put away time and be reasonable about these things? No. I'm just going to put it on my plate and just make it work.
You have 36-hour days coming up. Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So the build that you were talking about, were you playing that on stream, or are you playing something different?
Yeah, I've been playing it on stream here and there. He's like my primary farmer and like what I'm doing the content on. I've had 2 other side projects during the course of the league. We've done an Eric Holly's Fang build because I've never played the spider build at all before. Eric Holly's Fang is a unique dagger that allows you to summon up to 20 spiders at a time. They're melee minions and they're a lot of fun. They're duration based, very similar to SRS. And I actually had a grudge against them, which is why I hadn't played them until now, is because they're basically better than SRS in every single way. Aside from the fact that they have to be like summoned in a very particular manner. So like I just had this grudge. I was like, I'm not going to play those things because I learned the game on SRS and I had an SRS build. So I'm not going to play the thing that's better than what I'm doing, right? Like that's just no way. Like you don't just like get in a Cadillac when all you got is a Camry and then just go back to your Camry. Fuck that. So
they are reliable vehicles.
That's the SRS of the vehicle world.
But they introduced it's right, dependable, reliable, SRS. And so they released a helmet. And so what I've been trying to do is play around with uniques that are released, especially if they catch my interest. And 2 caught my interest with the release of 3.13. One is Ancient Skull, which is a helmet that gives minions a buff called the Whispers. And when the minions hear the whispers, they kind of like they go insane. They stop listening to you. They take damage, like almost like a berserker rage, but it's chaos damage and it's significant too. It's like 10 to 20% of their life per second. And then they get 50% increased attack speed and attack damage. So it only works for melee minions. And I was like, okay, that's rad. That's like really, it's like a free extra flash offering and, basically a Watcher's Eye jewel for minions. Sweet deal. And so I was like, well, spiders can't take damage. Let's just do spiders with this helmet. And so like I kind of put the whole build around that. Like we ended up using the triad grip gloves that are corrupted for 4 white sockets to completely convert them out to chaos damage. We went occultist for like debuffing 4 chaos damage, and we just ran these batshit and crazy insane spiders that just annihilated stuff. And I was like, had level 18 gems and was killing guardians, just boop, dead. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. So it was a fun little build. Nice. Really cool.
How do you get the helmet?
The helmet just drops. It's like one of the new
just normal drop.
What does it mean that they don't listen to you? I read that and I was like, what does that mean?
It means they're unleashed from you. Like, so certain minions, especially like specters and zombies, they're leashed to you. So like if you move, they move with you. Whereas skeletons and SRS are unleashed minions, where they just like don't give a shit where you are and they just go. And so this behavior on like, that's another thing. People are like, oh, but what about the they don't listen to him? Like, oh no, they turn into SRS. Oh God, like. Not a downside. It means they're gonna like fan out and like actually protect something. And what's cool about it is if you give them a chance to blind on hit and stuff like that, they just like sit over there away from you, blinding the enemy instead of trying to run back to you when you retreat when you're in trouble.
Does Predator support work with it or Meat Shield, or does it ignore those functions because they don't listen? Okay. Sounds like a wicked build. And to Blade Blast, I just forget, Blade Blast itself, before any changes you might have made to it, is that pure physical damage or does it change it to fire?
Right. It's pure physical. So I think the chieftains and stuff, they go avatar fire, and like the chieftain has like built-in generic conversion and stuff like that. So certain ascendancies that use it will convert it, but in our case, we're going mana scaling with Archmage. And so, like, if it wasn't for the AoE requirements or the AoE, like, scaling that happens with gem level with Blade Blast, like, we could use level 1 gems. Like, a level 20 Blade Blast is less than, like, I think 4.5% of my total damage. Because all of it is added as lightning from Archmage and Arcane Cloak and all of that kind of stuff. It's just a ton of lightning damage. It's inefficient to try and convert it using the gem because you're just going down a gem link for no reason. And then, like, there's not a lot of, like, inherent spell conversion on the tree.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there really isn't. A lot of the conversion stuff's for attacks down south.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. It sounds like a wicked week. Nice and busy, but really productive.
Yep. And then, so we just started this week, too, the explorations of the other build that I was trying, which is recycling the occultist we leveled for the other one. And we're doing Hexblast, Ignite, with the Black Flame Ring, which is really neat mechanically. It's very, very interesting. So with Black Flame, Ignites are taken as chaos damage. It's not a conversion. It just is like a flip-flop in the calculations. So you still scale fire damage. So you still scale like percent fire, ignite chance, ignites deal their damage faster, duration, all that kind of stuff. But then you debuff for chaos, because anything that happens on the end of the equation after the actual ignite is calculated then counts too. So we're kind of able to, I guess, double dip's not the right word, but we can take advantage of this as an occultist, because normally we do the curse scaling and everything else to make the Hexblast super cool, and then we also get like the powered wither, which is going to be debuffing for chaos damage taken. So it's kind of cool. Like, there's better ways to play Hexblast Ignite for sure, but this was mostly built around the ring, and so far it's been a lot of fun.
I love the occultist. Good call. That sounds awesome.
How's your week been, Ty? PoE wise?
It was mostly in my head. It was just tons of theory crafting. The theory crafters taking over the guide writer this week. I know every week I seem to flop. So now I want like a few more guides to kind of, like if someone's looking for a tank, well, I got one. If someone's looking for some sort of zoom build, I have one, about RF, minion, whatever. Like I want to have something in each general category, which I don't with my new setup. So I've been brainstorming like crazy. So screw you, PoE, for having such a game that I can just come up with endless options on. But yeah, remember I was doing, I love dominating blow, but I can't play it because it requires such a specific click, and there wasn't really a way to make it AoE. And then I started thinking, okay, I can use General's Cry, the war cry, to whatever. And I can use General's Cry to get dominating blow going, because then I don't have to aim it, and then these mirages just run up and proc it. So do you think I should keep talking?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. And you're hearing? I just didn't know if you were like zoning out. All right, awesome.
No, I'm definitely listening. I'm here.
So anyway, that's what I was doing. I was trying to use dominating blow with General's Cry. Oh, Josh, thanks for showing up.
Yep, good point.
And it was actually a really good idea. It was really easy to take the champion. You guaranteed fortify for yourself, right? Because when you're using mirages, they're like totems in a way. They take they're not allies. I don't really understand if the mirages are allies, but they're not minions. But they take your stats and apply them. But like totems, it's them doing the damage, not you.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get fortify in there, so I went with the champion for that. But then the champion has those nice offensive additions as well. Added physical damage, added flat physical damage if you've impaled recently, or they've impaled, or per impale. Then the 30%, I still can't believe how that node changed this league, but 30% increase to how auras work. And it, like, on paper, it was awesome. And honestly, bossing and clearing maps was awesome. But you know what I didn't realize in the game until this? Because I've never given Dominating Blow a legit chance, because General's Cry just came out. Well, whether this league, last league, whatever it was, but I never played with it until now. There's a lot of magic only mob scenarios.
Yep.
There's lots.
Cyrus is one.
And
he only casts spells. Cyrus is only spells. He doesn't actually have an attack. So there's even entire bosses that do nothing but cast spells.
Yeah. And even when you're mapping, there's mobs that are only magic, not normal, not rare, not unique. Just
that's what you meant.
all
Gotcha.
blue or what is the purple nemesis, which I think count as magic. And you're screwed. Like, if you're a fast player with Dominating Blow, that doesn't matter, because your duration's 20 seconds without it being increased, which is easy to do. But your duration's 20 seconds and you're flying through. But I like my slow-paced play, and halfway through the battle, my normals are all gone, right? And all I'm doing is trying to kill these. Like, I have 3 minions all the time with me. And it actually really sucked for a normal speed player, not a zoom player. I was really surprised with all my testing how many magic only circumstances I came across on a regular basis. And so it actually kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So I kind of scrapped it.
If you're running into a lot of Bloodlines packs in general, those are the ones in the big chunky packs, the blue ones.
Yeah. And then there was, the Val side areas were there. What else were there? There was actually a lot of circumstances in Delve where it was magic only.
Yep, that's why the XP is so good down in there too. Because there's a lot of clustering of rare magic monsters.
Yeah, a lot of them. And then even when you're going into the temples and stuff, you have to get into the corner to get the rare. But then even with Dominating Blow, with a rare, you're just getting one. It's the unique that gives you the chance to proc normal sentinels. So I was really disappointed, because the build itself was actually really good. It was just how it functions with the game that doesn't gel with my playstyle. So I guess it's nice that the reason it failed wasn't because it was a crappy build plan. So that was nice. But anyway, it was disheartening in that regard, but it did definitely fine tune. Oh, and going with my tank, totally changing the subject, but really quickly, I'm moving off a gladiator. The maps are just too busy for my liking to have a max block, not glancing blows, but a max block gladiator that's around 79%. That 21%, when maps are so busy with so many different hits coming your way, I don't find the 21% a small enough margin. So I'm a champion or jug fan now when it comes to tanks. That was my PoE week.
Are you adding more builds? More build guides?
Yeah. And then next league, I'll probably go down to 3. And then the next league after that, I'll jump up to 5, because 3 is not enough. But then 5 will be too many, and I'll jump down to 3. So I'm on the getting a couple more bandwagon. Yeah. That's going to be nice.
I'm definitely a big fan of you trying out a champion summoner again, though. In the days before minion accuracy being a thing that was baseline on the tree, I used to be a big proponent of champion summoning. That is like one of the main things I played in hardcore when I still played.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Because
what did you use then?
SRS.
Yeah.
I played champion SRS. Yeah.
Adding flat damage to SRS is huge, though.
Yeah, it was before. It was actually for the fortify, and then the free RT for the minions. Basically, anything that I taunted couldn't evade, and so that got across. It was basically back in those days, you either had to run additional accuracy in your gem links, which is a huge bummer for your overall damage, or run like Kosude in your offhand and use Necromantic Aegis and to give your minions the accuracy that they needed. So that's one of the things that made it so attractive, was that you basically got away with not needing accuracy at all for the minions, and you had like a free shield spot to go like Victoria's Charity or something like that instead, or to keep that defensiveness for yourself and be really tanky while also running minions. So I've long loved Champion for Summoners, so it makes me smile you tried one.
Oh, I'm still playing through with it because I really want Herald of Purity to work, but it doesn't fit my play style either because I have to do the kills to get Herald of Purity until you get to a rare
spider
unique.
conundrum.
And
spiders have that same chunky downtime that just feels bad.
So I'm playing with ideas like Animate Weapon or other things where it's something that's easy to start on the south of the tree with that doesn't require 155 intelligence to progress. Otherwise, leveling sucks. But yeah, I'm playing with it and I love the idea. Maybe I'll bounce some ideas off of you.
Sure.
Sweet.
All right, let's get into this week in PoE.
Wait, you don't want to talk about your week, Just?
My PoE week was fantastic. Lots of
Awesome.
Twitter, checking Twitter. And not really that. I have not stopped working. So this week I'm playing PoE this week. I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. Did you see that there was one patch?
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to it because it just was like a little hot fix. But I know you have in the notes here. I just like the 13.1e preview. So we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, they had the hot fix.
Why?
Why do I like 13.1?
No, okay, hang on.
PvP,
We're going to talk about the patch that exists.
PvP fixes, that's why.
No, see, there was one patch this week, and it had one line, and it said, fixed a client crash that occurred when using Wave of Conviction.
And did somebody go,
you didn't fix my problem. Maybe.
God,
stop releasing MTX and fix your game.
Exactly. I'm sure there was somebody in the post that was like, whatever. We've talked about it before.
I can't play the game. So no matter what they fix, until I can play with the frame rate, I can't play no matter what they fix. But you wanted to talk about 13.1e, but it was a preview. It hasn't come out yet, so we can't talk about it. Otherwise, we can't talk about it next week.
We can't. Well, it's coming out, and it's got PvP improvements. Thank God. Like some of these things, they've been needed.
It's a huge list, but it's not even out yet. We can't talk about it. Hey, Justin, have you enjoyed your gameplay experience?
Do you want to know what I like about 13.1e? Is it's just, I love all the fixed. There's many of them.
It starts off with fixed.
There's just so many. This is the one that stops people from being dicks on the forums for like half a day. Anyway, we do have one thing that's coming up on this week in PoE, and thankfully we have BK here to help us, because otherwise, here's how it would go. So there's a team blast hosted by Havoc 616 race thing happening. So that's cool. And did
you see the MTX that came out this week?
Right. That's how it would normally go. But BK, can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So this weekend coming up over 2 days, it's a race. It's a softcore group found race. So teams will be able to work together to achieve different, not only are they trying to level as much as possible, but they're also going to be going out against different bosses to try and collect points. So different bosses are worth points, and then your average team level is added to those points for a final score. And there's all sorts of prizes and cash up for people that have like the highest scores. So team sizes are anywhere from 2 to 6. It was a lot like people could choose who they wanted to play with and how many team members they wanted. And that's part of the strategy as well. Do you and your, 2 friends that know it really well go up against teams of 6 who may be like really practiced with this, from league launches and stuff like that. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of like the diversity. Not only do we have a lot of like long time known racers returning for this in teams of 4 to 6, but we also have all sorts of new people that we never even heard of that seem pretty confident.
Was it open to anyone?
Yep, it was an open invitation. The deadline was today, so sadly no last minute signups. But what's really cool about this is that we have built upon technology that we developed for the alternate start race that I hosted. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but we developed a tool that allowed us to basically pause time, which is something that we haven't been able to do in racing before, which is to just say, stop, hold on a second, we'll pick this up tomorrow. And that was really significant because one of the biggest outcries for racing in general is that people play unhealthy hours. So what's really cool about this one, and Havoc is really big into health and fitness and treating your body and yourself right, is that we now will have 6-hour play sessions. So 4 of them, 4 6-hour play session with breaks, and then 2 on one day and 2 on the next. So it is still 12 hours of playtime, which is arguably, that's a pretty intense for some people. But it is going to be broken up. There's going to be regular breaks. And then when you have this sort of team play, people are more encouraged to take bathroom breaks, grab a snack, stretch out as they need to, in addition to having the hour of downtime between the 2 sessions each day. So we're really trying to, take this tool that we developed to pause time and really try and use it for good within the community, while also saying that, look, this can still be competitive, maybe even more so than usual if we put this time limit on it, because people have to do more with less time. They have to be really strategic about who's going after what bosses, what builds they're going to play, what is their currency strategy going to be. Because at the end of the day, they can't trade with other teams, but they're still going to need to generate currency to run maps, to progress their atlases, to try and craft gear. So it all comes into play.
If everybody kills the same boss, do they get points for each of them, or is it just 1 point for the entire team for that boss?
It's so the list of what bosses are a 1 time per team thing. That's how it's being tracked, I believe.
And it's being streamed. People can watch it.
Yep.
This episode comes out on the 28th, so I think that's the last day of it, right?
Right. So you'll be able to catch the session 3 and 4 of it, and there's going to be commentary on Havoc's channel by Somad and Dadbod. And then, of course, you can always support your favorite racers. They'll be online, as well as streaming is a requirement. So if you like to root for Tai Tai or Zizarin or Havoc himself or etc., you'll be able to catch them. And Havoc will be, I think, on a alt account because the main broadcast is taking place on his channel.
It's pretty cool. Just should we join a race sometime and brag about our slowness? You're not slow. I'd hold you back.
I would not want to do a race. I watch them.
No, it's really cool because this one is a softcore race, which is definitely going to be kind of not one for the history books per se, but certainly softcore races are a lot less common.
Do you lose points for dying?
Nope.
So if I slash deaths and it says 222, that's totally fine.
In certain ways, it is still punishing because we do award points on average team level. So if someone were to die a whole bunch, they still lose a lot of XP. They could drop, they could not be in a good spot to be contributing to trying to have that highest overall average. You die a bunch and you're 91 and your buddies are all 95. Well, then you just look bad, right?
91? I thought the level cap was 60.
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
That's cool.
That sounds really cool.
Fun idea.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see the feedback from the community on this one.
And what's your involvement with it?
I'm doing more of the administration and behind the scenes stuff per usual. I don't get to cast very often anymore just because I kind of get left holding the bag. So I'll be running the support crew. I've done a lot of the administration work as far as getting everyone signed up and ready and getting the teams displayed, etc. Most of my time today was spent finalizing all the invites and making sure all the developers had their correct stuff. I made my first JSON file today, which isn't really that impressive, but someone told me how to do JSON formatting, and so I hand wrote out the string that needed to go into the casting tool so it knew what streams to go watch. I'd never done anything like that before. So
now you know what they're talking about when they're like, oh, no, here's the JSON file for the passive tree at the beginning of each league. Now you're just like, made my own tree, no biggie.
I don't think it's going to go that far, but it's a baby steps. You work with these developers for so long. It's I don't know, just teach me how to actually help you. Even if it's menial, baby tasks. I want to help.
It's pretty awesome. I'll be checking it out. That seems really cool. I'll be checking it out before the podcast comes out.
At least now people have way more information about it because we would have given them nothing.
Terms like thingy and neato
race
stuff.
So good. There were some MTX, Ty. I know that excites you.
Did either of you see them? There were 2 amazing ones. They came out with 2 Fist of War ones, Celestial and Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Judgment looks awesome.
Celestial.
Whatever.
It's not just Celestial.
And it looks dumber. More dumb.
The Judgment one, I have to admit, is pretty cool.
It's Drox's hand that just crushes the earth. It's amazing.
It matches the old corset. So if you actually got the corset from the commander, right? Yeah, it has the apparition of the thumbs down over your head. There you go. Big floaty hand dude smashing the ground too. Like low key, I like disabled screen shake like the second day I played PoE ever, but I would probably enable it again if I had that MTX. I need to feel the weight.
Oh, it's so neat. And then they came out with 2 taggers, Chaos and Necrotic. And I love taggers. And so
is that the ones you're
Necrotic
talking about that you like? The animals?
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah, the Tigres.
This is urgent. Okay, so when you play on console and you have screen shake on, does it also make the rumble pack go? Or they're not?
I have no idea because
no
I
way
turned that off
shake.
immediately.
No,
it's done. It's off.
Does it?
And screen rotate.
But rumble pack, man.
The rumble pack, I love it. It went back to like the N64.
What? There's no rumble packs anymore?
I don't even
Oh
know
my god! Why even play console?
Well, that's a great question.
They're in there. They're vibrating away.
They're not rumble packs.
Shut your faces. No,
they're not
they're not additions.
Now it's like a
they're
dumb weight that spins. Boring.
Oh, boring.
Remember, you could plug it into the N64?
Yeah, that was like the
awesome.
whole point.
Right. That back when console was cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ty, go on. What MTX did you like out of this? The animals? Is that what we're going with? The Chaos and Necrotic Tigers?
This is where I wish it was a video podcast. And I hate you both.
Sulking.
Yeah. Wipe your tears and move on.
I'm going to start my own podcast. This is going to be me talking about tigers. So they had 2 tigers. Shut up. 2 tigers. One was Necrotic, and I think the Necrotic one's cool, even though it's not cool, because I like the more natural looking stuff. I just like the normal Bengal tiger. But I'm surprised they don't have a snow tiger. Oh, no, they do have a snow tiger. But anyway, the Necrotic tiger matches like that project zombie skin a little bit, right? The Necrotic and the project, they kind of go, the green's a little off, but you can't really tell when when it says respawn at checkpoint, you can't really tell the difference anyway, so it's fine. The Gorgon shield looks kind of cool if you like snakes. And then Sphinx wings. Yay! And then there was concept art and talent competition highlights. Sweet.
Any of them stand out to you on the concept art? I looked at it and I have a real problem with it. I know people disagree with me on some of these things, but the whole ether craft, like just where it's like, here's red, green, purple, and blue. I don't like those.
What, you don't want to be a Power Ranger?
No, that's what I said in one of our episodes too. I was like, it's a freaking Power Ranger set. They had they looked ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'll
have to agree.
But it is nice.
It's pretty lazy.
But it does at least give you options. If you go for any other type of MTX, you have to like both the color and the style. Whereas at least it seems like it's going in a direction of, if you like the style, you have options for color.
Okay, but did you actually look at the concept art?
Yeah.
Do you have it open right now?
No.
Okay, I would like you to open their concept art thread, and I'll show you why.
It is open.
All right, go down to the Aethercraft armor pack bundle where you get to see like red, green, purple, and blue.
Yeah.
And then look at the Rapture set right below it. It makes the Aethercraft one look so stupid.
It wasn't a good marketing thing to put those two together.
No, you see this like crazy, cool, dramatic set, and then it's like, hey, here's the Power Rangers. Here's a Dark Souls god or boss, and here's the Power Rangers.
It actually does look a lot like the final boss of Dark Souls 3.
Anyway, I just think they're dumb.
But you know what? There's going to be other people that think that the Ether stuff looks way better than the
Rapture
Rapture
armor.
armor.
You want to be nice, whatever.
I'm just saying.
And then, yeah, they had the talent competition. It's always people that are better than us at everything.
Yeah, way to go, guys.
Good
You're
job.
Awesome. It is pretty amazing, but way to go. You said you want to talk about PvP, the PvP changes coming, Just?
Well, sarcastically, but I love that that's still a thing that they do.
You're going to love the rituals. Oh, go ahead, BK.
I wonder if it's because we played it as a gag during a racing intermission.
You played PvP?
Yeah, during one of the previous events, like we had the Havoc event that took place right at the end of 3.12. We had an actual like PvP battle thing where we had like teams versus each other and...
Okay, so then that's how, because I'm like, how do they even get stats? How do they know that something's not working in PvP? Nobody's doing it.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
I would love to know who.
Honestly, like, I think they could fix PvP to be fun again. I think they should scrap the entire idea that it should be something that, like, people level to or, like, compete in long term. I think they should cap it at like level 35 or whatever it is when you make that character. You shouldn't be able to get XP at all, and the gym levels, all that kind of stuff stays exactly the same. The gear is normalized. And then they just do little skill gem balances here and there to make people think of new strategies like every few months. You know, like nerf vitality aura a little bit and then buff like rejuvenation totem or something like that. Like make people switch around like what they have to do, but then keep it kind of more simplistic. Keep the game modes in there, whether it's like capture the flag or whatever. Like I just think if they squish it down and make it to where they can actually impact it with meaningful small balance changes over time, I think more people would dig it. But the fact that you can go against somebody that has like perfect godly gear for PvP and get one shot across, you know, from across the screen and never do anything, that's what makes it not fun.
I don't remember what it was called. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but I remember like
Call of Grandmasters last league.
No, it was like a temporary league thing where you just would invade other people's maps and worlds.
It was an April Fool's thing.
I don't remember what it was, but it was so fun.
There was Battle Royale.
Rumble Royal.
Yeah, there's the Battle Royale.
Yeah.
But there was also, this was a long time ago. I forget what it was called.
Yeah, I don't think the one I'm talking about was an April Fool's.
No?
I don't think so, but I don't remember. I just remember you, and I'm talking really, really, really long time ago.
Yeah.
Because the guy who introduced me to PoE was still playing back then. So it's going back quite a while, but I just remember you would do something. There weren't even maps, I don't think, but you would do something to enter somebody else's area. And
Dark Souls style. All right.
And all their stuff would just explode over the screen when you killed them. Anyway.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did either of you see the ritual stats this week?
1.3 trillion. That's a lot. A lot of tribute. I love when they get to that big of numbers.
And now you know.
Yeah, it's cool.
Either of you brainstorm off the PC? Like you look at PoE stuff on your phone or anything?
Like what? Are you talking about that dumb app you use? Like that?
No, shove it. No, I'm saying like, do you ever thinking about your build and then you're like, oh shoot, is that like, you know, maybe you're thinking about Blade Blast. And you're like, oh wait, is that like does it convert 50% to fire? Is it all physical?
So you mean like look up the wiki?
Yeah. Do you ever look while you're like, you know, walking to pick the kids up from school, or you're like walking the dog, but you're like staring at other people so they don't get close to you? Do you ever look at your phone, think about pathofexile?
I might think about pathofexile, but I don't think I'm on my phone looking up a wiki while I'm out and about.
Oh, you're so lame. You're so not PoE. UBK, do you do stuff on your phone for PoE?
Yeah, every once in a while I'll get, you know, the idea. Yeah. You have to go look at it really fast to see if you're right or not. It's usually when I get like the well actually kind of comments on my YouTube video, and then I'm like, bitch, I'm gonna look this up and it's gonna go down. We're gonna have a conversation about how you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because there's always like those people. And my favorite is when like, because you don't get snotty with them. That's rule number one. No matter how rude they are to you, you never get snotty back. And you just very calmly present facts to them, and then they give up and run away, and it's awesome.
I would go passive aggressive, I think, almost right away.
Because there was this one guy in my most recent video that was like, who's talking about specters? And I was like, I'm sorry, but you're mistaken. Like, this is not how he thought that, you know, the conduit and guardian's sign of purpose was actually giving charges to minions, which would be super overpowered if it was. But like, you can't just give charges to minions. There's not like ways to do that. You have to do like the shield or charge specters, or they have to use like power charge on critical and their links, or use assassin's mark as a curse. Like, you have to do all these other things. He just like assumed that minions are party members and they're not, and then like try to come down on me about it. I was, you know, just logically state the facts over and over again. And it was great because this guy like progressively, like he was dug in on his need to be right. So he'd go back to the wiki and he'd like find something else to tell me to do. And I just like really calmly represent the facts of like why that is an incorrect assumption. You could go back to the wiki again and like come back with like more well actuallys. Like, the dude couldn't be wrong. And
This was YouTube?
Yeah, there's YouTube content.
I would love to just have a moment to peek through their monitor to see like, what are you doing right now when you're making this argument? Go play the game. Go have some fun. Maybe I'll feel like they probably though get excited when you start responding because they're like, all right, I fished and I caught. Creators now like actually getting into it with me.
And in some ways, I just feel like they want to dunk on you regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. One thing that I like to do is I like to say like, yeah, no, make whatever changes you like after you've done some highly invested T16s or higher. Come back and let us know how it went. A lot of the times you don't hear back. Did you see though that the mobile site for the wiki changed this week?
I did not know.
What a crazy change, eh?
It
Crazy.
sucks. You can't look at you have to use desktop view now. Yeah, no, it's lame. So anyway, and desktop view kind of sucks on your phone because the search function doesn't work as well. It doesn't auto-populate when you're in the process of spelling something. So it kind of sucks. So anyway, that this week in PoE.
Sweet. All right, so we've had our chance to chat, Tyler and I, regarding this league, and we've both liked some and not liked some things, and chatted about issues he's had from a performance side and then just game wise. But we're kind of curious what your thoughts are on Ritual.
I actually really enjoy Ritual. I think it's incredibly well suited to its place as it exists in the game, and I think it's actually pretty well balanced.
And if you, I'm wondering if do you see that for all of this league that came out, like everything endgame, everything Ritual?
Well, I mean, we have to separate the end game from the league itself if we're just going to talk about, like 3.313 brought in both. But if we're referring only to like the league itself, I'm happier it was a smaller, less complicated, simpler, I don't need a spreadsheet to figure this out kind of league.
Totally.
Because the end game was complicated enough as it was. Like I think having something like Betrayal on top of getting this end game would have been a massive turnoff, like having to figure out like how to set up like a betrayal board while also trying to set up your atlas would have been like completely overwhelming. And so I think in its simplicity, it was enough to hook us during the leveling process and to sort of like prepare us early on, especially with some of the rewards that we were getting out of there. Like I got a wand in Act 7 that I couldn't replace until I spent like 18x on a new wand. Like it was that good that early for the particular build that I was playing. And it cost me 325 tribute. I mean, like, these are things that were, it's a roll of the dice, but like, this is why it was so good, because it was fun, engaging. It had really good rewards, and it prepared us for what the next step of the end game was going to be, or at least like helped us gear a little bit to get ready for it. So I think in like that service, it like, I don't know. I think it was pretty well. And I think as far as the way it exists now that it's a couple weeks in, I don't know. I still enjoy its extra packs, extra packs of monsters to kill. It drops some maps. Like there's stuff that still shows up in Ritual's rewards that even though I'm geared to the teeth, at least for me personally, I'm geared to what I think is satisfactory for my personal progression. Like I still enjoy getting like a couple of alterations, some chisels, some scarabs, and some delirium orbs here and there. Like that's cool. Like I'm fine with that. Like I don't need it to be like heist rewarding for me to feel like I'm not wasting my time.
Well, plus because it doesn't take you out of anything to do Ritual, which that's one of the things I love. You just do it as you're going through.
Exactly, and then it also gets more spicy the more you juice your map either with map mods or otherwise too.
Have you used the blood vessels much?
Yeah, I started messing around with them because I'm starting to pay attention to challenges now because I want to get the hideout. So I've started trying to like capture different things and learn about them and put them in there.
Do you notice a difference when you use them?
The monster, the rituals do get intense. The pack sizes within the ritual is a little bit more intense, and then like depending on like what bosses you capture and put in there too, it can turn into like baby Maven fights when you have like a boss or two in there with you.
And have you had any issues with performance in any other parts of Ritual?
I am super lucky in that I feel like my computer is perfectly average in every single way. That heist and harvest and all of this sort of stuff, like I haven't had many major crashes to deal with or situations to come up like that. I've crashed a couple of different times, but it's nothing, amazingly frustrating.
Your frame rate's fine?
Yeah.
Sweet. Lucky. Happy for you.
We've had internet connection issues. They recently started construction near where we live. and our internet has just randomly decided that it wants to go to like 0.4 upload randomly, and the download's fine, but the upload is shit. And it's like, oh, I guess I'm not streaming today. But other than that, like, that's really the only issue I've had.
How long is it going on for, the construction?
I don't know. They're building some sort of commercial building, so who knows? It'll go up faster than a house. That's all I know. Because when it's a business, they tend to be a little bit quicker.
Okay, and what about the Atlas changes?
I love them. Oh my god, I'm so in love with this in-game. In every way I hated what it was before, I am on board for it now. More so than ever. One of the things that I find immensely satisfying as a player is accumulating knowledge over time about the game that I'm playing. Like, I enjoy that knowledge investment. And this is an in-game that really favors people like me, especially with these different boss battles and everything else. Like, the more you pay attention and learn the mechanics of the game, the more this pays off for you. If you're someone that just doesn't want to instantly shit on an arena and kill everything in 1 second. Because you're going to be able to take that knowledge of knowing, like, all right, I have these 10 bosses in this arena with me, and I know that what each of their main, like, danger attacks is, the thing I have to pay attention to. And so as you're running around and killing them, you see them start to do their different tells for, hey, I'm about to use this slam ability. You know what to do. Like, you just scoot out of it and go fight something else for a little bit. So it's, like, immensely rewarding in the way that being good at Uber Elder was immensely rewarding, because you get into that rhythm of fighting. And the invitations, it's a blast. Like, I never knew how badly I wanted to fight all 4 Breach Lords at the same time until I did it. Like, it's amazing. It feels awesome. And same with all 4 of the Guardians and all 4 of Elders Guardians. And oh, it's so much fun.
Sounds really, really easy. Sounds like something we've done lots and lots.
In some ways, they have built upon what they started in Metamorph. And I don't know if I've ever said it on this podcast, but I've said it in other interviews and other ways. Like, I always felt like Metamorph was unfinished. I felt like when you fought the Metamorph in the map, you got the sample, you took the sample back to Tani's laboratory, and Tani's laboratory was like a complete letdown. Like, the Metamorphs in there, they barely even, like, tickled you, and it just, like, crapped rewards. And then the story wasn't really satisfying either. He's like, oh, I guess we'll go again. Okay, bye. And you're like, well, where's the ending, right? What, like, I wanted there to be, like, another Metamorph that you compile out of, like, 2nd level organs and, like, have super goop Metamorph to fight. But it seems like they took a lot of this coding and a lot of this sort of, I don't know, like, deconstructing of parts of the games to the next level with this in-game. Like, I feel like they started this work in Metamorph League the way they took a boss, and they essentially boiled it down to its main abilities. And then they took those abilities out and assigned them to different organs. So that if you had, like, a brain from Kitava, it was always his Exblast. Or if you had a pair of lungs from Innocence, it was always, like, the channel beam.
Is that true?
But instead of, I don't know if that's, like, a direct 1-to-1 ratio, but that's, like, how they constructed what a Metamorph would do, was, like, a certain body part was tied to a certain signature move.
I did not know
and then
that.
Rather than, like, kind of assemble them in random order with different parts, they just kind of, like, put all the bosses back together with their own parts so that they would just be a free roaming boss. And then they put it in an arena with, like, 10 other ones and made its AI better. Like, that's literally what we have, is the super goop Metamorph that I always wanted. It's just this end game instead, which is awesome.
Permanent end game, yeah.
I can't think of the last time where the end game's been this engaging and fun.
And it's always, like, it's not even just the battles too, which I'm always super excited about. Like, not only is it her making the day-to-day, like, in-map bosses kind of a little bit spicier by duplicating them, but then you've got the invitations all the way up to the feared, and then the Atlas stuff itself. I guess we're going to get into that too.
So, all right, so let's get into the Atlas stuff. Are any of the, we're not going to go into, like, every individual tree one just because I'm enjoying pushing this from Tyler, being able to talk about it.
You bastard.
Are there any of the specific, I mean, there's just so many, but are there any specific archetypes that you just really like?
I like that this is sort of the player agency that we've all been asking for a really long time, like having sort of, like, it goes along with their ideology of how the Atlas should be played, which is they want us playing a whole bunch of maps rather than censoring on a single one of them. So it definitely encourages that play style because like you get more for staying in an area and kind of like moving around within that area and doing different maps. But then like you can also directly solve the problems that you have. Whereas before, like you're like, I don't know, just generally make currency and then whatever. But like now you're like, I need currency. So I'm going to go to Valdo's Rest and I'm going to make a bunch of ancient orbs and sell them. Or I need money and I don't know how to craft. So I'm going to go run in Hayward Hamlet and sell my harvest crafts because I don't know what to do with them and they go for a lot of money. Or I like running Domain of Timeless Conflicts, so I'm going to go farm those up in that area where you can get like a ton of different lieutenants and emblems drop from the sky.
So the regions, when you're mapping, that just clicks for you. When you're mapping, you're specifically going to a region for that type of content, or is it just a nice surprise whenever you're picking whatever map? For you
when I'm playing, I tend to go to a certain area with a purpose, but I think that's great. Like, I think that's really neat about the current Atlas because as you're presented with certain roadblocks and problems with your build, whether it's currency or specific items, like not only like is Haywork great because of Harvest, Haywork is great because it drops a lot of essences, and I'm actually a huge proponent of essence crafting. Like a lot of the items that I start and finish with Harvest crafting, I start with essences. And you can get a buttload of those, like high tier essences there as well. So like it's agency and the ability that if you are not concerned about being the most efficient and instead enjoy solving your own problems with the tools the Atlas provides you now, you have agency to basically control what you're doing, or at least invest your time in a way that's going to make you the currency or get you the items you need to proceed.
How about you, Just? Do you play, I mean, obviously you haven't played this last couple of weeks, but you've played since League launch. Do you do random maps, or do you do them based on, do you focus more on the influence? Do you focus more on the Atlas passives and the rewards you're getting? Or is it just all random? How do you do it?
It would probably be different for me if I had all my watchstones, because I'm not quite at the point yet of having all my watchstones. I'm still more focused on that.
On the influence, yeah.
But also, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I haven't had a time to play with all of the different Atlas tree progression that you can do because I haven't progressed all the watchstones yet. So I don't know. I haven't, like Maven's not all the way up. I think I've done the 10 fight twice.
Okay.
So there's still quite a bit. There's still quite a bit more for me to do. I'm trying to think if I had 32, I would probably be doing it much more based on what I wanted to do with regards to those bonuses, which is nice because there's just more options now.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing too, is like before, and especially I think Heist was the biggest example of this, is that usually when there's one thing to do and it's incredibly profitable, then it gets really boring as shit to do that thing because you end up doing it so much that like this is the best way to make money. So you sit there and you run heists and you run heists over and over and over again. And soon enough, you don't want to look at a heist ever again. And well, guess what? In Heist League, guess what they had? More heists. So like people would burn out because of this, like almost sort of feeling completely forced into doing a one certain thing. But like, sure, no matter what in the game, there's always going to be like the most profitable way to earn currency. But for people that don't have to play like the most profitable way or the most efficient way, when you get bored of something, like say I run in Hayward Hamlet looking for Harvestcraft, and I'm like, God, I never want to look at a Hayward Hamlet map again. I can't do it. I've been in there for 3 days. I can't do it. I can pop down to Valdo's and farm Harbies and get a bunch of XP or currency to do that, or maybe I go delve for a while, or maybe I go back to Heist. I haven't gone back to Heist. I probably won't at all this week. But like,
oh my God, though, Tuck, he's so good now.
Tuck is
so good.
Yeah.
Finally.
But this is more or less like my point is like I've been playing a lot more than normal, and I am not even close to burnt out because I can, as soon as I start to feel it, I just go do something else. And that something else is still equally exciting. It's equally like, well, maybe not equally, but to me, it's like, it's exciting in a different way. It's something that I want to do. Like there's little projects and little like short-term goals and everything else. I just think I don't know. I like having that ability to choose what I'm doing.
Do you think the way that they've currently got the Atlas trees built is relatively equal? That they're relatively balanced?
It's impossible with Harvest being implemented in the game the way it currently is to make any of the regions feel like it can outweigh the value of Harvest. But that's because they put it back in the game at full strength, which they never should have done.
What's the alternative? Take some out?
At this point in time, they could remove a lot of the higher, more powerful. They have a couple ways they can solve this, and we can talk through them. They can remove some of the higher level, more powerful crafts away from the game so that every single time that you start crafting, you don't feel dead end. Because the way you make items now is you get it close, and then you sit on that item for like 4 to 6 days, waiting for harvest crafts to either be listed or show up in your community or have a friend that has them, so that you can then finish your item. So the logical endpoint for all crafting right now is harvest. And that's not good. Like, it shouldn't all be dependent on one system. So like maybe by really removing some of those higher level crafts that like cause that, then maybe people don't feel stuck in harvest. That's one way to solve it. The second way to solve it would be to make harvest more prevalent, which I think is broken in the other direction. I think it's like equally frustrating because when it takes a lot of the gear progression out. So like, why grind maps and get currency if you can just boop, 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 perfect item that quickly, right? So if you don't put a gate on harvest at all and you make it more common, then the game becomes shorter because you achieve your power longer without grinding. And then another way that I think they could solve it is the way I initially proposed it being solved back in July of last year. I remember having this, it was like, I think it was our first Baited Expectations episode. It's like, how would you fix harvest? How would you implement harvest? And my suggestion was to take the garden out of it and then push different parts of harvest onto bestiary and delve. So the seeds and crafts are already attributed to a monster type. Take those monsters, throw in maps, and then make the bestiary altar like correspond to some of those harvest crafts. So you would literally find the beast that came from the seed that gives you reroll prefixes in the wild. And then you would go to your altar and do reroll prefixes. So like some of that correlates directly there. And then for some of the other stuff, like the reroll with certain things being more prevalent, or have like a guaranteed mod from a certain mod pool, like that would be better handled by like a certain type of fossil. Just how they added like how they added the violet oil or the whatever it was, like the oil, so that people would do more add another fossil and make it really, really rare. But then that sort of like has the guaranteed roll and sort of like dilute it down and then make other things, in line, like kind of take harvest's power and distribute it amongst all of the existing crafting systems. So that harvest isn't like the answer for everything, but just a method of getting there, just like all the other crafting methods have been in the past. Because you could like old school craft something with like essences and build it from there using multi-crafting, or you could use Delve fossils before. So they were like alternatives to each other. One was sometimes better in some instances than others, but...
Are there any areas in the Atlas that don't interest you at all in the passive trees?
I am not one of the super map choosers, so a lot of like the beyond stuff doesn't really interest me. I used to go for a headhunter. When I first started playing, I'd get a headhunter every league because that was like what I thought I wanted to do. And I'd like put it together, run my MF build, get a whole bunch of exiles, and then like just sort of be uninspired. So when I stopped going for the headhunter and started investing like 20 to 30x in a couple of different builds, I found that I was much happier because I was learning more about the game by approaching different like avenues of like build styles and trying melee out or whatever, and kind of like broadening my horizons. I found I was happier doing that.
How about Alva? You care about Alva?
Temples are neat, and they're much more accessible than they've ever been, which is really good for certain outcomes. Like if I can easily, and maybe not, like I can't just like snap my fingers and instantly get like a tier 3 jewel room, but like in the time that it takes my awakened gems to top up to level 5, like I can usually have a gem room ready for them to be, to try to go for the level 623. And that's cool.
I've
It's
heard
cool
of
that
awakened gems. I've heard of them.
it's just like I feel like you have the ability to get a hold of a corruption table or one of the gem upgrade stuff. Like I feel like those are more approachable now. Before I never ran her. Just like, what's the point? I could spend, 8 days on this and not get a single corruption room. Because Incursion specifically was the link that broke me, because that was the first time I did get 40 out of 40. And I was like, because of the nesting dolls of RNG required.
Failed.
To this day, in every single thing that I've ever put in the corruption altar, I've never actually put a double implicit on an item ever. It's always bricked, gone white sockets, or poofed.
They should change. They should add that to Harvest Crafts. Give them a percentage chance to just fail.
People would be so
Yeah,
upset.
I think you just didn't get 40 out of 40 out of laziness.
I love people. Yeah, I know people would be upset, but I wonder sometimes with Harvest if you couldn't. Would Harvest be as broken if you just couldn't trade them? If you couldn't do them for somebody else? Like for a solo self-found player, I imagine Harvest is still top of the tier of things they want to go for.
Yeah, for
but then
sure.
it becomes them going for it.
SSF players also have patience and perseverance when it comes to approaching projects over time, which softcore people have like no fucking patience whatsoever, which is why we have all the complaints of like, why do I have to sit on the forum all day and sit on a Discord all day and look for these particular crafts, and this isn't fun, and this isn't how I play the game, even though like nobody's stopping them from playing the game or having multiple projects that they're crafting at the same time. Like when I crafted anything that I've made, I've had multiple copies of that item because you never know what crafts you're going to come across. So like say I need a ring with certain stats, like maybe I find all the suffixes I need on one ring that could work and then all the prefixes on the other, because you never know which rerolls you're going to get or remove ads or the ability to add influence to it, etc. So there's like multiple ways to build an item, and if you have multiple like ongoing projects, yes, it's a lot to like sort of track and maintain. But it also teaches you a lot about crafting along the way, and then you're not so laser focused in on what you're not getting, which is what a lot of the frustration from Harvest is people like they go to Harvest, they knock on the door, and they're like, I want all chaos, please. And Harvest is like, look, I have all of this great shit in stock. Like, you can do something with everything here. And they're like, well, it's not all chaos. Harvest sucks. They need to do something about Harvest. It's like going out and hunting and shooting a deer and taking only its backstraps. And then like being mad at the deer that it wasn't completely made out of backstraps. Like that's how preposterous it is to me that like people are mad at Harvest for this
Justin's
sort of
confused.
stuff.
You need to explain your explanation.
What's a backstrap?
The tenderloins.
Of course.
It's like you're like you don't hunt an animal and then just pick out the one part of it and then just, like go on with your life and get mad at the animal that it's not, you don't get mad at a cow for not being completely made out of filet mignon. Like,
oh my God, I would love to watch someone get mad at a cow.
Like that's how it feels to me, because Harvest takes like that, so like from, tail to snout sort of thing. Like that's how you have to look at Harvest. And so when you only want one thing out of it, of course it's disappointing.
I think if people were looking at Harvest and going, oh, I could use this for something else. I just feel like the way that Harvest is on the trade side of things is not fun to me. And it's just not the way I would play it. And I know 100% I have ditched Harvest crafts that I could have probably made a bunch in trade for, just because I don't want to do that. I don't want to go onto a Discord channel, sit around and wait, post something in there.
Of course, like the future of Harvest largely depends on their ability to develop the proper UI for it. I think the UI that they should model things after is sort of like what we have in World of Warcraft. So I can explain it briefly. So in WoW, you have a trade window when you interact with different players that's not unlike the way we have now, that has slots and you put items in there and then you hit like a double confirm window and then the items trade. But they also have a secondary window where like it has like the conditional of cannot be traded. So you put your gloves in there, and then another person that's an enchanter can apply a enchant for 16 strength to those gloves. You guys both hit accept. The gloves never leave your inventory, and then it uses the enchanter's materials to then put 15 strength on your gloves, and then everyone's happy, right? Because it's used their materials and you get the enchant, the item never leaves your inventory. So it's interactable in that way. And I think that moving forward, if they want to solve a lot of these issues with like this, like servers, Discord servers and stuff being like the crutch to this particular issue, is creating that UI within PoE. Because it wouldn't just help harvest, it helps everything. Like, you want to sell even just like basic bench crafts at the beginning of a league, like trigger socketed spells. Like a couple people unlock those like first thing that they do when they get to maps. And so like that can be really valuable for progressing your Atlas early on, because it like creates a really ease of access as far as like gameplay. But like say you find a wand like I did at the very beginning of the league, and I don't want to just like hand that to some guy. So like from the crafting bench to the like corruption altars to harvest benches, like there's a lot of demand for this type of UI. Like something where I could put an item in, they could select something to be done to that item. The other person sees what's going to be done, so they can see like it is going to have Aug Chaos or remove Add Cold or use Corruption Alter.
Not the details of what it's going to actually roll, but
right,
just
like use Corruption Alter or crap trigger weapon, like whatever it is. Like it has like the dialogue of what's going to happen, then it's the same double confirm window. And then like
That'd be cool.
like exactly what's going to go down. And then you don't have to worry about people like stealing your item. It still requires player interaction the way that GGG intends it to be. And people are happy.
Do either of you think trade's going to be changing when PoE 2 comes out?
I hope so, but I don't think we're going to get a different system.
I think the system BK's talking about is awesome. I don't see them doing it though.
I mean, they would allow them to index like certain things too, so people can actually list services for sale.
That'd be cool. It'd basically be the same, hey, I want to buy your thing for this price. Same thing as now, but it's just a different window.
They'll have to do something, because like there is before, like when other services popped up in response to something being difficult to trade, like in the era of Legion where the timeless jewels were a thing, discords popped up for that were like, here's these screenshots of where this jewel is and these like socket types, and these are how the passives around them change, because remember, you can't like index those guys. They're completely random. Their values are from like 1 to 8,000, and you just gotta hope that, like there's some good stuff on your particular jewel. Like with Legion jewels, we ran into a lot of the same issues that we kind of reapproach in Harvest, whereas like, can you trust the person that they're going to sell you the jewel that you've seen the screenshots for?
But they haven't done anything to fix that yet, right?
No.
Right.
But they've admitted really that curious. It was a mistake, that it was too complex, and that it was something that like moving forward design wise was not something that they were going to pursue again, because like it made them not good or not tradable in the way that they initially thought that they would be. So they kind of like backed off of that idea after they came out.
I wonder how much time they actually dedicate to those type of system improvements and development for the future. They always seem like they're just so, I would have no idea, but it just seems from comments from them that they just seem so backed up, tied to their own schedule, chasing their own game, chasing their own schedule, that I wonder if even if they agreed to any of this kind of stuff, if they'd even have the time for it. Not like I would know, it just seems like they're always behind themselves.
They do demonstrate a capacity to learning though, because the next iteration of passive tree changing stuff that we got were cluster jewels, which are not easily anymore, but like they're craftable. You know where you're getting on them. Yeah. The notables are very set. They gave us all the information on the notables right away, like so that we could go into crafting them for the first time, knowing kind of more or less what we were looking for. And then they've improved on those over time too, by like guaranteeing the jewel sockets if it was a large one, So there's a capacity for learning, but something that I think limits especially their ability to create like an additional UI or additional trade option, especially within the game, is the fact that it is their game. Like it is their engine, their everything. And depending on how the code goes together, like implementing a secondary trade UI could be as simple as copy paste or as convoluted as having to rebuild large parts of that from scratch just to put it in the game. And there's no way for us to know, right? I'm going to assume that it's
totally
incredibly difficult based on the fact that like this is something that they have not philosophically or like within game files changed largely for
I remember
years now.
when. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I
ahead.
was going to say, like,
I thought you were gonna- go ahead.
scammers, even though it's, like, more prevalent now, especially with people crafting items that are worth mirrors and then people running off with them, and then, like, farming reputation in these discourse to then have the ability to steal these items from people under the pretense of crafting. Like, the scam stuff has always sort of been a thing.
Yeah. The reason that I asked about trade possibly changing is because I remember a long time, kind of a careful conversation. I think it was with Tarky that Chris or Jonathan had with, I believe it was Tarky, was when console first came out, consoles trade, well, it still is. Consoles trade is very, very different than PC. And people that are used to PC trading hate the console way. But whichever co-owner it was that was in the interview said that the reason they don't like the way that trade is for PC now, and they wished it was more like console, and console was a way for them to try and implement it back into the community. In the Chinese realm, apparently it's the same on all platforms like it is on console for trade as well, which is just a lot more generic searching. You can't be very specific with your searches. And so anyway, just the fact that they wanted it to be a lot more generic. It was a lot more difficult to find your perfect item, but trade happened this way with kind of a knee-jerk reaction that the company made to appease people, to please people. But now you can't take it back, right? That's one of their examples they use from themselves of saying, like, you got to be careful about your decision making because you just can't take back your decisions. It doesn't work well. So it was just kind of like with that inkling, knowing that that's how they feel in their mind. I keep thinking that, you know, with the problems that people have with trade, how overpowered certain content is with trade. Obviously, trade's a huge part of their, you know, that's exactly what they want the community to be doing. But I keep thinking that PoE 2 might have a possibility of something.
They should just add an item into the game similar to like WoW. I can't even remember what it was called. It was the enchantment scroll or whatever, but you would just apply the craft to that and then you could trade that.
And the problem with that, though, is that it actually like makes the harvest problem worse, not better.
Why?
Because they would have to make everything a lot more rare. And then by being able to orbit and put it into the market, it's like a lot of the complaints with harvest right now is that you have to like sit in the Discord if you want to do your perfect items. And then all the people like that have lots of currency get to just like build their perfect items super fast and everyone else like suffers. And like maybe if, you know, ordinary people could just orb their crafts, then it would be way better. But the problem is that it doesn't like actually help anything. The way that they would have to readjust the numerical stuff for it, and not to mention it completely bypasses their ability to try and restrict the harvest crafting in general. Like they gave us 10 crafting slots for a reason. They know how overpowered it is. They don't want us to sit around and like hoard that power like we did in the actual league, where people had quad tabs and quad tabs and quad tabs of pretty much every single craft they could ever want in the game, stored to meticulously just build a bear their perfect items whenever they wanted to put a new build together. It just wipes away the progression of items over time. It's going to redistribute a lot of the ability to afford and get those items to the top players anyways. And in this current system, like, I feel like you actually have like a chance that things are so rare and scarce is why certain things are like that profitable or that nice to come across and have when you are able to like trade it to somebody else in your community. Like, I don't think creating more of it is going to solve the problem, because I think if they would orbit like beasts, it would have to be completely washed down. So I think it's either one or the other. You keep Harvest the way it is with these limitations, or you get a completely gutted version of Harvest that's not game breaking for 50,000 copies of something to exist.
I got a question for both of you. Start with Just. trade the way it is today, items the way it is today, harvest the way it is, the game the way it is today, do you think GGG should care how we go about the game? Or do you think GGG should care how we go about the game, like with Discord, how trades are, what people are searching for? Do you think they should focus on more the solo self-found? Like, do you think they should care about how we have to go about all this stuff?
Do you want me to honestly answer you that?
Yeah.
I couldn't care less. It doesn't affect me. I really don't care. I'm not the type that's going to go onto a Discord server to try and find a perfect harvest craft. And I'm not going to try and sell my perfect harvest craft if it pops up. So, and that's coming from somebody who doesn't play solo self-found either. Just the way I'm going to play the game, I don't put much stock into them doing much with trade in a way that's going to make it more, I don't know, player friendly. I'm not really sure even what the word is.
Sure.
Like if you go back to the very beginning of PoE, there's been one change to trade. It used to be we posted on a forum and we linked it to a forum, and then they brought in the ability for their website to, or for basically those stash tabs to be read. I don't think there's been anything besides that one change since PoE came out. So I don't think that they will. And for me personally, it really doesn't matter.
How about you, BK? Do you think that GGG should care how the community goes about getting these different items or crafts? Or do you think they should just care about the weight and let the community do what they want?
I think they ultimately should pay attention to it. Maybe not in the way that they need to immediately like intervene and solve every single problem. Because I don't think third-party tools existing is necessarily a bad thing. But the third-party tool being the only way to access something is in fact a problem. Like they need to, like full stop, need to index the crafting station so that you can list your crafts, like period. You should not have to go to a forum to do that. Whether, regardless of how they decide to change harvest or make it more or less rare or add crafting station slots or turn it into a craftable orb, no matter what, like there needs to be a part of that has to be indexed. But they should also take tremendous amounts of care in paying attention to the economy trends, because ultimately the economy itself is what determines how long people play. And unless it's someone playing SSF, because they're in it for the long haul regardless. But for trade players, not paying attention to trade and letting trade get wild and crazy and either washed out in the way that it was in Heist or being as crazy as it was with the hoarding and harvest. These are incredibly valuable lessons for them to learn in the longevity of certain leagues as to what keeps people playing and what kind of bores people and makes them stop playing. If they're like, because something being too prevalent takes away the special feeling of it being like, oh man, yes, I got this. Because like saving up for and making incremental upgrades to your build or getting shiny new things for your next build, like that is part of what keeps you playing through the entire league. And just like he got up on the podium at that whatever the game talk thing was like, we're trying to figure out how to make PoE play forever, or people play PoE forever. Like having this level of frustration centered around a mechanic that is so vital because of the way they decided to implement it is just a bad mixture player like morale. I'm not even talking player retention, because that'll eventually either like people will either go fuck harvest or like settle down and deal with it. But just like overall like player frustration and overall like how they want to interact with it. The economy has really large implications for that.
What do you think about your own question, Ty? Do you even remember
I haven't even thought about it. No, I don't. Yes, I do. I think everything in the game needs to be treated the same, and the weight of the item needs to be the most important part of the trade economy. So if something can't be traded, it's not capable of being in the market. And if somebody wants to go do a roundabout way of doing it, then you're running into the honor system, but doesn't run on GGG. Now, I don't know which parts of the game fall under that category, but to me, if I was making a game and I wanted it to revolve around an economy, you have to make the item easily tradable within your actual game and UI, right? You need to make it convenient. And basically like every item, right? You can sell maps just like you can sell wands, just like you can sell whatever. So if that's your intent, and then you just need to have very strict rules about it. But to me, it's all about the weight. And if you have something that's not supposed to be traded and then people do a roundabout way, I don't know. But at the same time, you need to be clear about what is and what isn't tradable. But to me, I'm relatively apathetic. I play solo self-owned.
Harvest was a mistake. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Harvest
from the beginning.
Harvest is a mistake.
They said it right at the beginning too. That it was going to break the game.
Yeah, the fact that they implemented it at full power will never cease to absolutely astound me.
So do they change that then? Do you think?
I think it's too late. They should have never put it back in full power to begin with. Like, they had the opportunity to, at the beginning of this, explain how certain things through tracking the data that they collected in Harvest, that these methods were too powerful and would wash out other crafting methods, leading to like too much reliance on Harvest to be like the primary crafting method, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's to think that they didn't know this when they implemented it is, just silly. They had to have known. There's no way that they were like,
they took their time putting it in too. Was it 1 or 2 leagues?
It was just the one down. Because it was Harvest Heist and then now Ritual. But like, I would love to be a fly on the wall to figure out like how on earth they decided to put this in that full strength and think that that was going to be a good idea. Like, what was the reasoning? Why did they decide this? Because I think introducing it at a lower power but higher frequency would have been perfect. Like, I don't think that targeted annuls and targeted Exalt should have existed. It should have been one or the other, so that there was still the gamble to get the mod off or onto an item. Especially with the next level of gambling that Maven orbs introduced, that would have like been an appropriate amount of power for an item to have. Just because you can lock and then remove certain things and still get a specific mod off anyways, or add a certain one depending on how you interact with other metacrafts. So it would have all come full circle anyways. But the fact that both exist in the game and there's all this other crazy stuff, and some of the mods still have tags, like you can always put elusive on boots, but they got rid of tailwind, so I guess there was some balancing, but still, like there's still very specific ways to have very certain powerful outcomes. And it's still...
I still think that they could pull that stuff out though. I feel like they could. I mean, they not to the full extent did somewhat with Heist with regards to what you were trying to push towards the end to getting all the currency. But I feel like they could just go, yeah, we don't want these crafts available this way through Harvest anymore.
I think it would be bigger backlash doing that now. Like, I'm not saying they can't. They absolutely could. It's their game. It's not for us to decide, But, like, I think the backlash would be huge if they did it now opposed to reintroducing it at less power. Like, I don't understand. Like, I would have, like, this is going to be my Monday morning fucking quarterbacking right here, is that I would have given it back a little and then made my decision from there. Like, okay, yeah, the community could hand, like, maybe we introduce, like, introduce this one type of craft back, but then make it really, like, more rare or something like that. It's always easy to, like, sprinkle in the exciting stuff than to take it away from basically crybaby toddlers.
I still think they should add a 50% chance to fail. I just think that'd be so funny.
Oh, the rage and the salt. Oh my goodness.
Astronomical. Oh man, if I could only have some input, that would be it.
I agree though. You always, and like Justin said, they've said that too, that you start small and it's easier to add than it is to take away. But now that they've already added it like this, I do think that there's parts where they do need to be relatively apathetic to the backlash. I remember when they tried to change power charges and they were trying to change and balance power charges to frenzy charges and endurance at that time. That was like 2 point. I don't know. Do you remember that, Just? Anyway, I was baffled by the response. There was such a huge outcry that they came back and said, we were wrong in this decision, as opposed to just sticking with it. Now, obviously, that's a long time ago, but I don't know. I feel like if they want to take something away, changing harvest crafting as opposed to changing trade, I don't think people would grumble, people would complain, the voice would be loud, people would still play.
People are always going to play. People love to cry. They're going to come back.
Most do.
They're always going to come
when
back.
I want to cry, I go grocery shopping or
but
go
then
to the
you play
zoo.
again.
Yeah, I still will go to the zoo.
All
We're
right.
full circle now.
I don't even know
Here
where
we
this
go.
went to. All right, let's wrap this up. BK, do you want to stick around for After Dark?
Absolutely.
Sweet. We'll chat more about this then. And this has been, thank you so much first off for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so much better than just Tyler here. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining
I'm
us
not
for
going to say anything. I'm going to let that could make it
71
awkward.
Forever
I'm just gonna
Exile
talk over you.
After
Don't
Dark.
edit
I
this.
am Justin, aka Tagz,
I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
and our special guest today,
Brittleknee.
Brittleknee. For Patreons, we'll catch you guys in After Dark. Everybody else, we'll catch you in episode 72. If you're looking for more information, our website's down below, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter for Exiled82. Patreon links down below, Discord links down below. Come hop in there, and merch stores in there. Sweet. Thanks for joining us.
I love the mug. I want to get another mug.
There's mugs.